Ready? Hello, I'm Ellen Honig. I'm the director of this production of On the Exhale. I'm also on the board of the Rhinebeck Theatre Society. The Rhinebeck Theatre Society has been making plays for 35 years. This production of On the Exhale was performed in the fall actually, of 2019. We toured many venues in the Hudson Valley. We had planned to continue in the spring of 2020 when the pandemic hit. So all productions of the Rhinebeck Theatre Society, like almost any performing arts company, have been suspended. And David Schell of Greenkill has generously provided this opportunity for us to perform On the Exhale again and to make a permanent record for us. We are very grateful to David. He has provided opportunities for artists all over the Hudson Valley. He has an art gallery here in this space. He provided time for poets and for musicians and for our piece, On the Exhale. We are so grateful to you for joining us and for your support. And now enjoy On the Exhale.
You always imagined it happening to you. Some young student, always male, in your cramped basement office, twitching with anger, fear about not getting into med school, law school, or the like, about mountains of debt, swallowing his stillborn future, and all because of you. Because you dared make him look outside himself, see past his narrow experience to the inherent difficulties that come with not being male. Because no, you wouldn't change his grade. But most of all, because you dared challenge him. Entitlement mixes with adrenaline, with fear, with testosterone. You smell this incendiary cocktail wafting off of him as his leg twitches wildly. Until he lifts up the edge of his shirt. Simple, subtle gesture. Graceful, even. He flips up the bottom corner of his tasteful green button-down, and there it is. Obediently waiting in its holster, eyeing you with its obsidian stare. You slowly raise your hands. Why? Instinct, probably. You've seen it 100 times in movies. This is how you survive when someone pulls a gun, right? You slowly raise your empty arms, the international symbol of plaintive innocence. Never mind that this man is not a cop, and even if he were, it is no guarantee of survival. Still your hands ascend, weightless, while words tumble out, heavy and insubstantial. They are all that stand between you, this man, his gun, and its obsidian stare. Maybe you're right. Maybe we can take another look at your final grade. Maybe there is something to your point of view. That's when you feel it. Warmth. Takes a moment to recognize that it's your own. That you never heard the shot, never saw the muzzle flash a few inches from your face. The warmth continues trickling down your face into your mouth, and when that first taste of iron hits your tongue, pure rust invading your mouth, all your sensations come flooding back. Burning, stabbing, throbbing as he blasts and blasts away as life slowly slips from your grasp. and then you wake up. The first time you have this dream is the time you tell a student, a male student, to kindly consider the premise that there might just be some small disadvantage to being a woman. It is a women's studies course after all. And to try to incorporate such a perspective into his paper revision. And what you get back is no revision at all. You get back the original paper covered in Post-it notes, full of borderline violent screeds about your insidious propaganda, the college's inhumane curriculum requirements, and your appalling vendetta against men. Three underlines. This is the first time you entertain the possibility that it might not be someone else on the news the next time. The next time it might just be you. This is when you start locking your office door, even during office hours, especially during office hours, and you post a cute handwritten note urging students to please do knock. You do it under the excuse of needing to concentrate on your research. But what distraction could there be, possibly at the end of a lonely basement hall? And every time you open the door, you hope your students will notice how you pause just a little bit. See if you can see a glimpse of anything in the crack of the door. See anything shining before you open wide. Invite them in with a smile. Blame the slowness on your age and the heavy door. Oh, this heavy door, you say with a chuckle. After a few semesters, the young man in question, in your head, you call him the catalyst. He graduates, magna cum, of course. Your panic starts to subside. The dreams, they occur less frequently, but they reoccur nonetheless, so still you remain vigilant. Each new class, you identify a most likely candidate, just a minor mental check mark, and maybe you start leaving your office door open again. This time, with a strategically placed mirror, something funky, something tasteful with a funky frame, something you thrifted, you tell your students. Place it right at the spot where you can see anyone coming from your desk. Maybe you even move your desk. Give yourself just enough time to run to the door and slam it shut should you need to. At least this is this is what you tell your therapist one Wednesday afternoon when she remarks that you seem considerably on edge. The catalyst of your confession this time is not some student, but the little stickers. The little stickers that have suddenly appeared in every window now that concealed carry is law of the land. Oh, thank you, Supreme Court. The little stickers that people are now legally required to put in their window if they don't want someone bringing a weapon into their establishment. As if that's something someone should have to state aloud. No, please don't bring that thing that's likely to get one of us killed into my otherwise peaceful place of work. It should really be an opt-in sort of thing, you think, where those who prefer weapons are required to post, "Weapons, please," or something of the sort, so that you and everyone else who's sane knows exactly where to avoid. Because now, each time you see that silhouette, it feels like an assault. You sweat, you start to palpitate. But more than that, you wonder if some troubled young man who wouldn't otherwise will suddenly turn to violence precisely because he has that subtle reminder, that silhouette with all its potency, power, sex knocking around somewhere in his subconscious. And well, although it makes sense that she, of all people, would need one of those in her window, the last place you expect to see one of those silhouettes staring at you is from your therapist's door. So she, of course, senses your anxiety, asks an incisive question, and it all comes out. About the catalyst, the reoccurring dream, the mirror on your office wall, the many minor precautions. You pretend to laugh it off, make it seem like you have a sense of humor about the whole thing, because really, this is the first time you've ever admitted this to anyone. Of course, you're worried what she's going to think of you. You have to admit, I mean, when you're done, you feel lighter, unburdened, closer to her. Until you hear the hint of skepticism in her voice. Though she does her best to conceal it, still you sense it in the up-glide at the end of each sentence in her false affirmation. You probe her to see if your intuition is correct, slip in a subtle, you know what I mean. But when her response is vaguely non-committal, you remind yourself never to question your intuition again. This is the first time you feel judged by your therapist. You know, as you drive away from her office full of shame, embarrassment about having shared those thoughts, but most of all about having had those thoughts, you have a sudden streak of insight. And of course she wouldn't understand. The stakes aren't the same for her. If something happens to her, if some unstable patient decides to disregard the little sticker in her window, she's got a successful husband, a large and loving family for her children to fall back on. But if the same thing happens to you, there will be no one to take care of Michael. Yeah, Michael, who can't wait to start second grade. Michael, who was the greatest choice you've ever made, the most challenging choice you've ever made. Even though your whole life you chose nothing but challenge. Like how you chose to embrace your love of books, although it meant never fitting in with all normal girls where you grew up. Or how you chose to ignore your parents every time they told you not to get your hopes up about a scholarship and that college might not be possible without one. Or how you chose grad school over a more sensible but tedious career path. I mean, all that just felt like the bare minimum you had to do to survive. But with Michael, you had a choice. And you chose him. Even though it meant choosing challenge every step of the way. And not just because you had to pick the donor yourself. You had to drive yourself to all the appointments. Not because you had no relief on diaper duty. Those were the easy parts. To choose to have a child by yourself in the quiet bedroom community surrounding your college's campus. It means choosing the subtle scrutiny of everyone around you, choosing to endure their silent belief that, oh, yours is a place of yearning. Yours is a place of lack. At first, your lack of sleep makes you mistake their pity for approval, support even. But when the offers of food and childcare soon turn to play dates, dinner parties where some single man is always present, well then, the smiles on the cherubic faces of your friends, they seem to have something else behind them, some implicit question like, haven't you forgotten something, dear? And when months of single men fail to yield any change in your life, women start showing up in their place. I mean, these people aren't prejudiced after all. And though women seem to be a more alluring option, they are not the option. Not yours. Not right now. So you stop showing up to the dinner parties, cocktail hours, start saying you'll be out of town, and Michael's not feeling well. When it turns out you were lying. When you get caught in line at the grocery store taking Michael to the park, well, then their soft-eyed sympathy soon turns to resentment, brittleness of spirit. How could you be so ungrateful as to turn down their charity after all? They would sooner have a murderer in the midst. So you turn even further inward. Lose yourself in the oasis of his smile. In the eyes that seem wiser, that they can even comprehend. He'll never know how grateful you are, that he never asks why he doesn't need a babysitter anymore. He never asks why the other parents aren't at his play dates anymore. He never asks why he doesn't need a mommy and a daddy, or a mommy and a mommy. He will never know how grateful you are that he just seems to know. This is how you come to be alone with Michael. This is how you come to be uniquely horrified of what would happen if some student rounds the corner, weapon in hand, and you are too buried in a book to get a jump on the door, because then who would take care of him? Oh, your sister? 600 miles and a universe away, and unlikely her return to reality. Someone who pities him, that's who. Someone who will wonder whether he's better off, whether your demise was just some simple, small hurdle in his narrative of triumph. And pity is no recipe for excellence. Those are the first words out of your mouth when you hear there's a shooter. Even before your flash of relief of how circumstance has vindicated your paranoia, before you wonder if your therapist will be forced to apologize to you for judging you, for doubting you next time you see her, if you even live to see her, before any of those thoughts can surface, you find yourself whispering as if in a trance, pity is no recipe for excellence. Then you find yourself bounding towards the door, eyes on your mirror the entire time until you're just about to slam it shut. When you catch your department chair, the one who came to tell you, eyeing you quizzically, You always imagined it happening to you. So when you hear her say there's a shooter at the school, you think she must mean your school, not the school, the elementary school. Next thing you know, you're standing at a police barrier in a line of other anxious parents waiting some word. Parents pull out cell phones, start streaming CNN, MSNBC to see what they could tell you. The absurdity of watching reporters from your phone who are standing mere feet from you, reporters who know nothing more than you do, is lost in the upside-down logic of this moment. Minutes pass, hours, or so it seems, without any updates from police. Data plans buckle, phones die. When you hear it, the sound is so much duller than in your imagination. Yet it's unmistakable, and so is its direction. As officers start pouring out of the building, you know it can only mean one thing. The shooter has become his own victim. Answers are now inevitable. The sheriff separates parents between classroom and grade. And soon everyone is lined up like children, anxiously waiting for their teachers on the first day of school. You watch the sheriff work his way down the line, classroom to classroom, grade to grade, dispatching some grades wholesale to the safe zone where their unblemished children wait. With others, he goes down the line name by name, some parents collapsing into each other's arms, until it comes to your grade, your room, 2C. He stops short, lowers his gaze. Though he soon finds the strength to speak, by that point, it is unnecessary. Still, he stumbles on, unleashes a stream of information. How the teacher did her best to barricade the room. How the shooter forced himself in despite her efforts. How the shooter took his own life in that very room, all of which feels painfully irrelevant when stacked against the sheer magnitude of the fact that your son is no longer alive. You silently resent that the sheriff is still speaking, resent that he even speak at all, resent every word that crosses his quivering lips. So you tune him out. Only to notice the birds, they're still singing. Leaves caressing each other in the cool autumn breeze. And you resent them too for their casual indifference. By the time the sheriff moves to the microphones, you resent the sun for giving light enough to see, oxygen for giving air to breathe, everything and anything that allows you to go on living while your son is dead. Because there you are, still alive, still living. At least and incapable of doing anything to remedy that most unfortunate fact. You glance at your phone. out of habit, or because your body seeks comfort in routine, when an alert warns you, reminds you that Michael is an hour late for soccer practice. You find your thumb sliding unlock on the screen because sharing your joy doubles it. Sharing your pain halves it, or so you remember reading somewhere, and just as you're about to hit send on the call, you remember where it was. On the wall of your dentist's office. And wonder how something that seems so inane in the midst of a root canal could cause comfort right now. Before wondering how your mind could be so fucking feeble as to think of a root canal right now. Then you wonder if your sister, in her hazy ignorance, could possibly comprehend what you were about to tell her. And even if she could, would she care? How you suddenly see her philosophy of radical detachment. You know, you decide to call her anyway. Not tell her what happened. Just asking her how she manages to float through life so unencumbered. Instead, you just stand there, while slowly or quickly, you have no idea, a vigil materializes in front of you. Your body soon buzzes from the hymns all around, hymns whose vibrations swallow you whole, along with candles, silkscreen solemn prayers. All feels so poignant, so prescient in the moment. But when they yield to an endless stream of potlucks, support groups, lunches, you suddenly see the latent pathology in this endless cycle of nurturing. In meals so carefully prepared, yet always uneaten. In care so aggressively given, yet so rarely received, and all of it focused with particular attention on you. Because you need the nurturing more than most. Because Michael was all that you had, and now that he's gone, what do you have to live for? And while you don't disagree, you still sense a haughty superiority in their gestures of support, a message beneath the floral arrangements and bundt cakes. Oh, you know, if you just listened to us, if you'd taken our advice when you had the chance, well, then you wouldn't be alone right now. As if another body in your bed could blunt the pain. Oh, you consider asking them whether their lumpy, inadequate partners actually give them any solace. Instead, you let your mind drift to the shooter's parents, who you find yourself thinking about a lot more than the parents of the other victims. You imagine the single depth of their loneliness, and you find it familiar. Or at least you imagined it to be. And maybe you contact a reporter who wrote about them. Ask him how to reach the shooter's parents. But when he declines, maybe you offer them some cash. make it worth the effort. And when he still refuses, emphasizes their overwhelming need for privacy, you push no further. Because you harbor no ill will, no anger towards them. Although their needs seem somewhat ironic to you, still you respect them. Because you can't even imagine. Not that. So, you recede back into the sea of other mourning parents. Tolerate their pity as far as Michael's closed casket funeral. The only option, according to the funeral director. And you tolerate their pity. But when their grief seems especially false, you bear it nonetheless so as not to seem ungrateful. But when you put the box that supposedly holds your son into the ground, you go home and vow never to talk to them again. You close the door and wonder if it was all a dream. Sitting on the edge of his unmade bed, surrounded by the toys and the puzzles that captured his earnest attention for hours, surrounded by the sheets that still hold his smell. You can't help but wonder, how is it that a mother can drop her son off at school one unremarkable September day and then never, ever see the oasis of his smile or any part of him ever again, as if he just vanished into thin air? Yet when you find your body forgetting, waking up at 6 a.m. to make his lunch, to pack his lunch, making his morning oatmeal, how could you forget for even a moment? Did Michael matter so little to you? You smack yourself so violently that your skin becomes a canvas of blue, purple, brown. How could you be so stupid, you think? And in your darkest moments, you wonder if the other parents were right, whether your forgetfulness was just proof that your whole endeavor was ill-fated from the start. This vicious cycle of amnesia, guilt, swift and brutal punishment continues until one day you are standing at the kitchen sink just before sunrise, washing the dishes, and you swear you catch him out of the corner of your eye and catch yourself asking him what he wants for lunch. And start to pound your thigh over and over again until it occurs to you why you keep forgetting. It's that you have no way of knowing what happened in that classroom. You have no way of knowing about his last moments, no contact, no witness. No tangible thing to grab hold of. you resent speaking out about surveillance cameras in the elementary school. You regret using the words police state in the PTA meeting. At least then you'd have some contact, some tangible thing to grab hold of. You suddenly start to devour various news reports, theories, speculations on what might have happened, what might have motivated the shooter, what path he might have taken through the school. You get DVR to get all the competing specials so you can put together a composite picture. But when none of that works, you go to the police department and request the relevant reports. But when the young sheriff behind the desk recognizes you, he hesitates, understandably. But you remind him that he works for you, and how could he stand between a mourning mother and what she says she needs? Before you know it, you're walking out of there with a bundle of paperwork tucked under your arm. Paperwork you spread across the living room floor while the pundits blather in the background. And maybe you haul all the furniture out of the living room and tape out the position of each body on the floor in some feeble attempt to retrace Michael's final moments. But even then, as you walk among the tiny, taped out bodies, stand as they might have stood, crouch in imagined terror, trying to conjure the shooter before you. Even then, as you do it all again with tape that glows and close the curtains to block out distraction, all your efforts, they seem so speculative, so uncertain. You will never know what happened in that room. So your mind, it fixates on meaning, trying to find somewhere to assign the blame. But all those usual suspects, the inadequate mental health care, the NRA, they seem so nebulous, so distant, so far beyond your grasp as the circumstances between Michael's final moments. The only tangible thing you can think of are the tiny fucking stickers. The tiny fucking stickers that don't do anything. Oh, you consider doing a ritual purge, carrying a razor blade and scraping them off of every single door. But what good would that do? And then, in the midst of your despair, your salvation comes in the form of a news report where the shooter purchased his weapon, legally purchased his weapon. Before you know it, you are in your car, barreling down the highway onto a lonely state road that will lead you to where this merchant, this mercenary, dispenses death. The whole ride over, you savor what you will tell him. How he murdered Michael. How he profits about the distinction between legality and morality. But most of all, you savor the clarity of purpose you have for the first time since you lost your son. The gift of the gravel propels you across the parking lot, through the door, to your task. When you see it, the same assault rifle the shooter used, looking down imperiously from its post high above the shop. Oh, you would recognize that weapon anywhere. Its silhouette both jagged and supple. You have Googled it so many times. You can see it on the inside of your eyes when you close them at night. And standing beneath that silhouette is not the merchant of death you imagined, but a placid grandpa who's looking at you with round, wet eyes that are almost swallowed by big walrus brows. And it takes you a moment to recognize that he's talking to you, asking you, is there something I can help you with? All you can manage is to point to the weapon on the wall. He asks if you'd like to hold it. You find yourself nodding. He asks if you've ever held a weapon before. You shake your head. And just as you think your doubt will seem that he's doubting you, his doubt seems to strengthen your resolve. I want to hold it, you say with enough force that sends him up the ladder with knowing, probing steps until he reaches the top, dutifully slings the thing over his shoulder and descends before dropping it gently into your arms like a small child. It's lighter than it looks because the butt's made out of plastic, he says. And then ever the gentleman, he asks permission to touch you so he can show you how to hold it. You hesitate before nodding. You let him fold his large leathery hands around your own to place you in the proper position. But as he does, as he sets your arm and shoulder at the proper angle, you sense a lie in the taut muscular stance he tells you to take. Even then, in all your ignorance, you sense the lie that any man thinks that they can control something so powerful. You take the opposite approach. Surrender to his weight and size. He takes a step back and impressed. Gives your stance a once-over. Asks you if you'd like to give it a go. We got a shooting range out back. He takes you to the industrial-sized storage shed behind the shop, where he presents you with a pair of goggles and earmuffs and warns you to watch out for the kick. Seems that the same force that throws the bullet forwards throws the weapon backwards along with everything else in its path. Most first-timers with a weapon this size underestimate the power of the shot. It sends their the shoulder going all herky-jerky, bullets flying every which way. So why don't we just start with one bullet and work our way up from there, okay? You nod as he puts on your goggles, slips on your earmuffs, and warns you, counsels you to start by breathing in and out. And when you're ready, slowly squeeze the trigger on the exhale. Suddenly you're alone with your thoughts. Peripheral vision cut off by the edge of your goggles, unable to see anything but the silhouette in front of you, unable to hear anything but your quickening pulse. You try to take the man's advice. Inhale, slowly, but your breath is sharp and shallow. Panic starts to set in, so you shut your eyes to try to nip it in the bud. When you see Michael, standing right where the silhouette was. It's the clearest you've seen his face since that day. And although he sees the weapon that you were pointing right at him, he's smiling, waving, unafraid. You blink your eyes to make sure what you're seeing is real. Open, close. Silhouette, sun. Your breath deepens. Pulse slows. You inhale. Exhale. Open. Close. Silhouette, sun. Inhale. Exhale. Open. Close. Silhouette, sun. Inhale. Exhale. Squeeze! The kick. The kick brings such a familiar jolt. Like how Michael used to keep you up at night when he was still inside you. And you squeeze the trigger to feel again, but nothing, and again, nothing. And you hardly feel the man slip the goggle off your right ear and say, well done. You open your eyes, and the silhouette wears a dime-sized hole smack in the center of its torso. The man asks if you'd like to give it another go. You say you'd like to buy it. When he warned you that this particular model comes with a hefty price tag, you tell him that you're willing to pay what it's worth. This is how you go from never having held a gun to owning an assault rifle in a matter of minutes. The ease of the purchase, just a 3-minute wait and a driver's license, both terrifies and delights you. I mean, in theory, you know full well you can walk out of here with that weapon in its case, but when it comes to doing it, you think there must be some complication. But when there's not, when you get into your car, weapon in its pristine case, and just drive away, you are instantly consumed with laughter that carries you the whole way home. When you get there, you step inside the living room, still empty for the tape outlines. You close the curtains, draw the blinds, but this time you stand in the spot where the shooter stood, looking at Michael's outline. You flip open the case, grip the weapon in your hands, surrender to its weight, shut your eyes, but nothing. So you slow your breath, deepen it to slow your heart rate. But there's no tension, there's no danger. So you crack open the complimentary ammo the kind old gentleman insisted you take, slip in a clip. Still, nothing. This time you switch the safety off and just let your finger hover over the trigger. Nothing. You let your trembling finger hover over the trigger. Nothing. Panic starts to set in that you have done this unconscionable thing. Betrayed yourself by buying this weapon, and all in vain. The panic is compounded by guilt when your breath goes sharp, shallow, and all of a sudden you feel the kick. Hear the dull thud of the round ricochet off the far wall. Steady your shaking hands. Put down the weapon. Run to inspect the wall. And turn around to find Michael. smiling. You immediately look up the nearest shooting range. "5 minutes from campus. Close enough to slip in a session between your Tuesday classes where you can comfortably cordon it off from the rest of your life." You put it in your calendar and you call it centering. When your department chair is shocked to find you in your office the next week, she gently brings up the subject of extended leave or maybe taking your sabbatical a semester early. You assure her that that is not necessary so long as you continue to teach and teach well, which you definitely do. The moment your chair leaves your office, you feel no guilt in beginning to scour the internet on what it will tell you about the advice on how it will tell you to handle your new companion, a topic you soon become an expert on. It turns out your initial instinct when holding the weapon in that store, your instinct that machine is powerful, machine has a mind of its own, and the only way for the two of you to coexist is for you to align yourself with its interests. Turns out that theory was dead on. You scour, you read biographies of the world's best snipers, scour advice blogs on Olympic shooters. Read how they wear lead vests to slow their heart rate, where they can shoot between each beat. Your stomach turns to think that the shooter might have done it with such complete calm and poise, might have done it without feeling anything at all. Still, you read on, you fight the mounting nausea, do what you must to be with Michael, to have a hope of seeing him in that silhouette. And when the pain is too great, then the nausea too overwhelming, you remind yourself, when you were in labor with Michael, how alone you were, how you hypnotized yourself to diminish the pain. And you suddenly realize to shoot a weapon well is to align yourself completely with the needs of another being. To shoot a weapon well is to deny the basic elements of self. It is an act not unlike parenting. The only way for you to succeed is to surrender. So surrender you do. Because you soon learn, like a child, a weapon can't be cleanly cordoned off between your Tuesday classes. Like a child, a weapon will not be satisfied until it dominates your every thought. 7 days a week at the range, you stare at the blank hole of that silhouette. Stare at its image so long, try to see Michael inside it, try to stretch time so you might live with him as long as possible. In those moments between beats, in those few fleeting seconds before you squeeze off another round. The bruise that soon sprouts on your shoulder in golden purple tones, burns with satisfaction. Each time the unforgiving butt of your gun assaults it, you believe that this bruise is a sign that you are siphoning off all of Michael's pain out of him and into you. When you strip to shower at night, you place a hand on the bare skin. You feel its throbbing warmth. But soon, your shoulder starts to numb to the pain. The blank hole of that silhouette loses its life. And you find yourself collecting the many misshapen rounds, running your hands over their smooth, rough surface, trying to comprehend the kind of power that can produce such a contradiction. And maybe you even pound those rounds into your bare shoulder, make the bruise blossom anew. Till one night, when the sharp edge of one misshapen round tears through your skin, coats the cool lead with warmth that shocks your system. As you stand there, blood bubbling from your ruptured flesh, you suddenly see the absurdity of your ritual at the range. See its violence with frightening clarity. That night, you bury your companion in the backyard, only to not be able to leave it alone the next day, not be able to step outside of your house, not be able to teach your classes so long as it remains behind. This is how you decide to join the group of parents testifying before the state legislature. Parents testifying in support of a bill that will outlaw your lone companion. Even as you can't help but let it lead you to the range every night, or precisely because you can't help but let it lead you to the range every night. You volunteer your car for the caravan to the Capitol to pitch in, you say. But you really do it in case the chaos of the legislative chamber is too much to bear, and you need it. You need a release. You need to find the simplicity and solitude of the firing range. You decide not to judge yourself should you feel the need to do this, because who would judge you just this once? You find the closest range to the state capitol and memorize its route, 6.2 miles, a 13-minute drive. On the drive to the State House, you wonder if the parents know that they are in fact in a car with the very weapon they are coming to decry. You make it through the interminable drive by imagining the look of shock on each of their earnest faces if one of them were to discover it, while popping the trunk to fish out some cholesterol meds or junior mints. The look of shock on their faces has you smiling through the interminable drive. When you arrive to the Capitol, you are escorted into the antechamber and reminded of the rules. 2 minutes each, no more. Do keep track of your own time so as not to make committee members look bad by cutting you off. Do address committee members respectfully. And then the page asks everyone to wave their phones in the air to make sure they are in fact shut off. You eye your carefully scripted statement, double-spaced, as you are escorted onto the floor. The pregnant silence that fills the chamber soon yields to a monotonous 2 minutes, 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 2 minutes. A rhythm that could blunt even the most blistering of testimony. A rhythm you think is intended to undermine you. Parents are more preoccupied with the onerous and arbitrary rules than the words that are coming out of their mouths. Not that you blame them. You soon find your own attention straying from the stilted statements to the committee members who struggle to perform their earnest engagement. Their effort is palpable. Except for a young senator whose childish, boyish features are emphasized, how he keeps expelling air out the side of his mouth. You watch the senator's gaze track back from his watch to his legal pad where his pen meanders about the page. You'd pay a fortune to catch a glimpse of the childish doodles you're sure you caught him drawing, and eagerly await the moment he has to flip his page. You can confirm your suspicion. But before it does, it's your turn. As The committee members commence with the perfunctory shuffling of papers, crane their necks. You clear your throat and toy. You toy with telling him the truth. How you have experienced firsthand the raw power of the weapons in question. How you can't imagine what task would demand such force. How you find that force electric. You feel the need to bear it all, to show him the bruise on your shoulder, as if to say you are a prime example of how a citizen cannot be trusted to control herself around machines of such seductive power. You feel yourself reaching for your shoulder, trying to say all this when you see the pale glow of a screen from the senator's lap. He started texting from his seat. You are so shocked by what you see that several gaping seconds are gone from your 2-minute time limit. Gaping seconds gone forever. It is too afraid to do anything other than read the words in front of you with such ferocity that you might win his undivided attention, or maybe just a glance away from the screen. But neither happens when someone is tapping on your shoulder to tell you your time is up. On the drive to the firing range, you spend every second at red lights, and maybe some seconds not at red lights, scouring your phone on what it will tell you about this man. You visit the legislative webpage to pair a name with the face, and what you find waiting for you there, a well-coiffed hair and an easy grin, can't help but make you laugh. Parents from your carpool keep calling and calling. You send them straight to voicemail. They'll squeeze into the other cars. You think as you continue wringing the internet dry of what it will tell you about this senator. His personal life, single. Voting record, aggressively pro-gun. Awkward photo ops. A radio interview where he's skeptical about the number of children killed by guns, where he calls those statistics the exaggeration of hysterical liberals. You resolve to find some way to be with the senator alone. That night, you check into a hotel, sit there waiting for the sun to rise. First thing in the morning, you walk to your car, pop the trunk, see your companion still inside it, and head straight to the State House, to the senator's office, where you say you're a lobbyist. The staffer at the front desk seems skeptical that any lobbyist doesn't know that her boss doesn't do morning meetings. She starts listing off distant dates and times you might be able to meet with him. You say you don't need much time, just a few brief moments, that you're willing to wait here until he's free, at which point she says, he's got one of the smallest offices, seniority something. As you open your mouth to protest, you clock the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. The same fear that you had that first day when that student came into your office with his paper covered in Post-it notes. So you stand down for her sake and for yours. As you walk out of the State House, you pass a handful of reporters, one of whom recognizes you from the day before, and asks you who you're there to see. When you say the senator's name, she can't help but roll her eyes before jotting the name of a bar on a scrap piece of paper and telling you he conducts his business there after 8. You pass the bar on the way to a mall where you spend hours searching for a dress you're sure will catch his eye. And then you call your department chair. leave a message saying that yes, you are going to need to take that extended leave. Thank you so much for being understanding. Back at the hotel, you hang your dress to steam as you shower in preparation before arriving at the bar a half hour early and perching conspicuously with a glass of wine. He arrives 20 minutes late to his self-appointed hour, taking suitor after suitor as you hang back, nurse your wine, and contemplate your next move. But something unexpected surfaces when you're watching him from across that bar. The compulsive drumming of his fingers on the tabletop, the slow sweep of his palms down his pant legs. And you soon start to wonder whether his behavior is a sign of restlessness or enthusiasm. Whether he's buoyed by a sense of purpose or leading a life devoid of joy when suddenly he makes eye contact. You have a hard time telling whether he recognizes you or not, whether he's terrified that you followed him here, excited at the chance to meet a lovely new stranger. But when your eyes meet again, he subtly raises his brows as if to say, yes, I see you. And don't worry, I'll be with you as soon as all of this is over. You are suddenly no longer content to be the next thing on his agenda. You drape your purse over your shoulder, walk out of the bar, and leave what happens next to chance. You're almost at your car when you feel a hand on your arm. Before you can even feign contrition at having interrupted his meeting, he apologizes for making you wait and wonders aloud if he can't talk you back into the bar for another drink. You are now certain he has no idea who you are. So you suggest going someplace else. And before you can even wonder whether you're coming on too strong, he offers to take you in his car. Say you'll be more comfortable following in your own. As you crawl behind him down suburban streets, you catch his eyes studying you in the rear view mirror, watching you, filling you with an incendiary mix of giddiness and disgust. And when he puts his signal to turn into a driveway, you pull up a little up the block, put your car in park, walk around to the back of it, pop the trunk, and let your hands hover over the spare tire compartment where it lies in wait. You let your hands hover and see how long they can stay there before they tremble and retreat or act for themselves. When you hear him call out, "You comin'," with a bemused sort of half smile, at which point you say, "You were just making sure you hadn't forgotten anything." Ease the trunk shut. Listen to the latch click. The only touch of personality in his too tasteful apartment are the crude crayon drawings that line the entrance hall. Crayon drawings you barely have time to take in before he calls you into the living room where he's waiting with a glass of wine. A quick scan of your surroundings reveals no photos of him hunting, no trophies on the wall, none of the signs you'd expect from a man who boasts his particular brand of zealotry, just a clear glass coffee table and 2 black leather sofas. As you slip into the sofa next to him, ease into the soft leather, steal your first sip of wine, something about the impish smile that crawls on your face makes him ask whether you know he would be in that bar tonight and if you know who he is. You say yes and no. course you know who he is. But seeing him in that bar, oh, that was just a happy accident. How happy, he says. And you start in, dead serious, or so he thinks, about how much you admire his fight for your rights. How hard it must be to hold steadfast to his principles when everyone around him is so compromised. How long you've admired him from afar. You don't know what to think when you go in like this. Maybe you're hoping to expose his hubris or let his naked ego stoke your righteous rage. But the longer you go on, the more you sense his discomfort, which strikes you as strange because you've seen many of his kind before and they've never been the type to shy away from praise. Still, you take a perverse sort of pleasure in watching him squirm as you shower him with adulation until he is so uncomfortable that you begin to feel guilty. And then you slowly start to realize that this man doesn't believe any of the words that are coming out of your mouth any more than you do. That this man is no zealot at all, but a man too afraid to live the consequences of his convictions. That his cowardice is so monumental that he does not deserve to exist. But before your rage can amount to anything, he grabs you lightly by the wrist and kisses you. You let the kiss run its course, flash a giddy smile, until you're confident you set the encounter back on track. He excuses himself to go to the bathroom. You say you try not too hard to miss him. And as he goes to the bathroom, shuts the door, you're pretty sure you hear him turn on the shower. You do hear him turn on the shower and seize the unlikely opportunity to move to your car, pop your trunk, remove the weapon from its compartment, slip in a clip where you step back inside and pause momentarily on those crayon drawings before stepping into the living room, facing the bathroom and assuming your stance. Amid the sound of the cascading water, you try to steady your stubborn heart, which seems like a losing battle. So you shut your eyes, try to nip it in the bud. When you see Michael standing there, but this time he's not smiling. He seems disappointed that you would take this sacred act, this intimate thing between the two of you, and waste it on someone so unworthy, that you would let the stranger diminish it. This is the first time since your son was taken from you, since you held him in your arms at the hospital, that you wished you couldn't see your son. But the longer you stand there, he's still there. So you set the weapon down. You tear your fingers from the comfort of the cold metal grip. Leave that part of you lying on the clear glass coffee table. One bullet still in the chamber. And you run down the hall where you're frozen at the crayon drawings. Whose drawings are, you'll never know, but you're stuck there. When you hear the shower stop, take the first one off the wall, tuck it under your arm, and run to the car where you get into your car, start the engine, and you drive. How far? Who knows? All you can think of is the senator stepping out of the shower, seeing your offering on his table. One round still in the chamber, having to know how close he came, having to live with that fear until there's nothing in front of you, just darkness, the same in the rear view, until you don't know how far you're going, how fast you're going, or even if you're going at all. So you take your foot off the gas, let your car roll to a stop. Look down at your lap to steady your breath. See the crayon drawings. It's messy lines running off the page. And remember when Michael's eager marker used to run off his paper, catch on the carpet. You should go home, you think. Tear up the tape outlines. Run your fingers on them. Marker to see if they fade. When suddenly you see Michael in the seat behind you, smiling. You turn around